Welcome into 5 Wide Fantasy. Today's video, 4 waiver wire targets for you. Probably not even 4. We'll have more. We'll cover all of the important guys you need to pay attention to before waivers run in your league. Everything you need. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to check out Betfred. Bet 50, get 250 over at Betfred all NFL season. Link is down below in the description. If you guys are betting props, if you're betting on anything in the NFL or really any sport, Betfred is the place to go. Link down below in the description. Brian, week 1 in the books.
Week 1 in the books.
Absolutely electric week. I mean, everything you think you know about football just completely out the door when we were on the brink of 2 ties in 1 week.
I know. It was brutal. I know. Of course, my Cincinnati Bengals, in classic Cincinnati Bengal fashion, couldn't close out the victory against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Don't really have too many words there other than chalk it up to the game on that one. But yeah, lots of interesting football. A lot of surprise performances in fantasy that maybe some will last, maybe some won't, but that's why we're here.
Yeah, we'll cover the guys, in terms of injury that next up on the depth chart type deal that are obvious ads for you, but you're coming here because you need to find some information that you don't already know. So that's what we're going to do today. We'll hit you with a couple players that are very relevant from injury perspective, but also guys that impressed us in week 1 and that we're interested in adding because we think they can build on it in week 2 and moving forward the rest of the year. First player you got, Ryan.
First player I got, and I know that you hate this one, but I sneakily like it because he's rostered in pretty much no leagues, and he maybe isn't emerging as the wide receiver 1, but he's clearly this guy's top target after week 1, and that's Donovan Peoples-Jones. In this Browns offense, a lot of unknown, obviously. The one thing, Donovan Peoples-Jones had 11 targets in week 1, and the closest to him was Amari Cooper with 6, and then Kareem Hunt with 4. David Njoku wasn't really a big factor in the offense in week 1, despite the fact that he did lead all receivers and tight ends in snap share. Donovan Peoples-Jones and Amari Cooper were both tied for second at 82%. But I think DPJ could be a solid flex option moving forward if you have a guy who, let's say, got hurt. If you're in a deep league and you need someone to pick up that's really not rostered in a lot, I think moving forward in the next couple of weeks, he'd be a great option. They play the Jets next week, which is absolute baby food. I think their secondary is pretty piss poor, and Sauce Gardner will probably be focused on Amari Cooper. And then they play the Steelers. That's a tougher one. And then they go and play the Falcons and the Chargers, which should garner a decent amount of points as well. He had the highest PFF grade on his team yesterday by a wide margin. He also had, in terms of, he gets the ball pretty deep down the field, and in terms of contested catches, which is one thing that has been a trouble for DPJ in the past, is not dropping the ball. He was 3 for 3 on contested catches, which is good to see. And obviously in a new quarterback system with Jacoby Brissett coming into Cleveland, I don't care who you are. If you're getting 11 targets with a brand new quarterback and some new faces in the wide receiver room, I think there's some value to be picked up here. Jacoby Brissett obviously is had a liking towards DPJ in week 1 and maybe even in camp as well. So in the next couple of weeks, I think he's a solid option if you were unfortunately one of the people who had maybe like T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, or someone who got hurt and you really need a receiver to start.
I'm going to be honest, Ryan.
Yeah.
I'd rather carve my eyeballs out with a spoon than add this guy off the wire.
That's great, because you know what? I really don't see too much difference between this take and the guy that you're about to bring up as well.
Well, because Jacoby, this offense is going to run the shit out of the ball.
Well,
that's
clearly
what we saw
not
last week.
They still threw the ball.
Yeah, I just don't trust Brissett to give a guy who to push the ball downfield. I think the Browns ride the offensive line, run the shit out of the ball. I think DPJ has no upside.
He moves all over the field. And he played 30% in the slot. He was 60% on outside wide as well. So they're finding him to move around in a lot of different parts of the offense, which means I think they're going to get him the ball. And yeah, he is a deep target guy, but his average depth of target yesterday was only like 10 yards. So it's not like he's only being seen as a deep threat in this offense now. He's probably being used as a different formality with Jacoby Brissett, who we know is probably better of a short and medium passer than long passer.
Yeah. No, there's no chance. There's just none. The backs are all the value I see. Kareem Hunt stealing some scores. There's no way I want. We've already said I don't want Amari Cooper. There's no way I want the guy competing with Amari Cooper. But maybe I'm wrong. But the guy that Ryan now tells me he doesn't like, the show gets.
Well, no, I don't dislike him. He's in a very similar situation to Donovan Peoples-Jones. And they just played against the worst secondary in the NFL.
I would heavily disagree, but let's get to it. Curtis Samuel, Washington Commanders. Eye-popping stat line for week 1, 10 targets, led the team. Terry McLaurin only had 3 targets. Jahan Dotson only had 5 targets. 26% target share for Jahan Dotson. That is nice. 8 receptions, 55 yards, and a touchdown. Added 4 receptions for 17 yards. To me, this is a player that is very talented. And when he's healthy, we obviously know the injury concern of him basically not playing football last year. But if this guy's getting balls or getting options in terms of running the football, clearly they believe in his talent and want to get the ball in his hands as often as possible. Connection with Wentz was talked about in the preseason of them, working together outside of practice. A player that Wentz really likes, and they just put that on display in week 1. He's ADOT just over a yard, 1.3 yards. So a guy living at the line of scrimmage. Yards after the catch is the big play for him, 6.1 yards after the catch per reception this past week. And then we get a nice matchup, fresh off of obviously a Jacksonville team that is terrible in coverage and can't tackle. Well, the Lions come in week 2, another secondary that isn't good, another secondary that can't tackle well. So there's a chance that you pick this guy up. You can play him immediately in a juicy matchup. And honestly, I'm concerned about Terry McLaurin because it seems like this is a guy in Terry McLaurin that Carson Wentz just isn't looking to get the ball to. And instead, Curtis Samuel seems to be his number 1 option. And to me, this is an offense that will certainly be throwing the ball more because this is a team that, to me, is not very good. They'll be in a lot of game scripts where they need to throw, and they'll get the ball to Curtis Samuel as a guy who can make plays after the catch.
So I don't mind the Curtis Samuel take, but I don't see how you could be like so out on Donovan Peoples-Jones, but in on Curtis Samuel because it's a similar thing. Do you have J.D. McKissick, who's there as well, he plays a very similar role. When Brian Robinson comes back, Antonio Gibson is still a guy who can catch the ball as well. And then you talked about it. Like I really liked Dotson last week because of the matchup he had against Jacksonville. Really poor secondary, young defense that definitely showed a little bit of rust. Yeah. And so the same thing that you said about Terry McLaurin, like Carson Wentz isn't really looking to get the ball to Terry McLaurin. Doesn't seem like Jacoby Brissett is really concerned about getting the ball to Amari Cooper either.
Well, I don't want to have any of the offense because I think the Browns will be so focused on running the ball.
But it's the same thing. They're probably going to be trailing in a lot of games, and we'll just.
I like the Browns. I think we've said this. Like we've had this conversation of I think they're going to have Browns will be a lot of low scoring games, which will then be tight, which will allow them to run the ball, which will allow them to use the backs. Now here, Curtis Samuel does have competition. I'm definitely not going to tell you that. J.D. McKissick doesn't play, like you said, play a role as a pass catcher, as a back. Antonio Gibson had like 7 receptions this week. And, this was a juicy matchup. I think my biggest takeaway, though, is that I think this guy he proved it when he came, playing with Ron Rivera in Carolina, that he's really talented player after the catch. And this is a guy that Ron Rivera brought in. Obviously missed him last year. But now that he's here, it seems like not just from the quarterback, but from the scheme perspective, they're scheming up plays for him. I'm excited about Samuel. I get it. I think I can understand how you think they're similar. I just think the offenses are going to be very different in how they're attacking their opponents this season.
Yeah, that's fair. I said if in our start sit last week, I did really like Dotson going into this week, but I don't want to read too much into the success of this Commanders offense off week 1 because, like I said, this Jag secondary really isn't that special.
No, it's not good.
To be honest, the only corner I think I can name on their team is Shaquille Griffin.
Yeah, they've got
I can't even think of the other guys.
Tavon Campbell.
Okay.
And then they have the other safety out there, Rashawn Jenkins.
Yeah.
They traded away C.J. Henderson last year.
Yeah. Right.
Again, this is a team that I always look to volume as opposed to did they score a touchdown. Because again, Terry McLaurin scored a touchdown. He had a good fantasy week.
Exactly.
But he had 2 catches.
Exactly. Yeah.
Who do you have as the second one?
So one guy that I think that can really, unfortunately, the way we talk about this in fantasy sports, benefit from an injury is Josh Palmer on the Chargers. And I was even high on him, a guy that you could have taken at the end of your drafts, because as soon as a guy like Keenan Allen went down with a hamstring injury, I believe it was, he definitely won't play Thursday night this week against the Chiefs. And obviously for T-Mac, prayers, it sucks. But both of us were down a receiver after week 1, T. Higgins out. And him out. But Josh Palmer's stat line last week wasn't really too favorable, I guess you could say. He had 4 targets. He had a carry, which maybe, I don't know, you can look into a little bit more. I wouldn't really. He had 3 catches for 5 yards. The one thing you can kind of look at is DeAndre Carter had an oddly big game. I feel like that won't really be consistent moving forward. I think against the Chiefs this Thursday, Josh Palmer is actually a great matchup. This Chiefs secondary isn't that great. They played against his Cardinals team that really
was a disaster.
Yeah, they didn't have a lot of firepower on this offense with so many guys hurt. Rondale Moore wasn't playing. DeAndre Hopkins wasn't playing.
Cliff, Kingsbury made comments about their practice habits after the game. He's like, we got to be better in practice.
I feel like he's really
Team's
not
a disaster.
I feel like he's not a stern coach.
No.
Like he's not like a guy who can really they're gonna rally behind. Like he's a cool coach and he's like cool to have as your coach. But I feel like he's not like
hate that guy. You can
yeah,
hate
exactly.
The cool coach.
That's also a great point as well.
Yeah.
I think Josh Palmer's role is definitely going to get a lot better moving forward, depending on how long Keenan Allen will be out for. As of right now, they're doing tests, so we don't know, but it's going to be, I would say, at least 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
So
it'd be way worse too.
Yeah, Josh Palmer is 14% rostered right now, so he's probably still available in your leagues. And like I said, against this Chiefs matchup this week, I really like him. And even moving forward, like a lot of the defenses in the AFC West, the secondaries just aren't really good. Raiders are a perfect example. Chiefs are another example. Broncos a little bit better, but still kind of all fall under the same umbrella. So I think Josh Palmer is a great pickup this week if you can still get him.
Yeah, he will take over Keenan's role, no doubt. Like this past week was really weird. They spread the ball out a ton.
Yeah, like the
Mike
tight ends, like you even said it. The tight ends, they always run
Trey
double set
Kitty
tight ends, but he was getting
yeah.
a bunch of looks.
So he'll be on the field a ton. It's a great matchup, like you said. Like he's a guy you can play. That's the other reason why I talked about Samuel as a guy you can play. I like Palmer because he was the clear 3, and in the chance any of these two went down, he's now the 2 in an offense that Herbert looked incredible this past week.
Did.
So
he did look really
I
good.
like that ad, even though the stat line isn't giving us a lot to go off of.
That's probably good because a lot of people will probably look at the stat line and be like, oh, he was shit even after Keenan Allen didn't look, so I'm not picking him up. But trust me, he will be because he's had great games before with all 3 of them on the field, so there's no reason why he shouldn't with just him and Mike Williams.
Yeah. DeAndre Carter, like he was brought in to be the special teams return guy. So I don't know how long this will last or what his snap share for next week will be very unpredictable. Mm-hmm. I got Jeff Wilson. This is the one that's the injury side that's just
all too familiar to last year.
Yes, we got it. Yeah, exactly. With San Francisco, we just got to add these guys because they're San Francisco 49ers running back on the depth chart with an injury. So Elijah Mitchell leaves with a knee injury. Was in a big what am I saying? A knee brace, massive knee brace. So they're looking at like an MCL sprain potentially. I don't want to say it is, but it's looking like that. That could be a 3 to 4 week injury. It could be even longer. And obviously the 49ers provide a valuable rushing offense. Trey Lance certainly could have an impact in terms of the upside of the backs, just with how much he wants to run it, how his capability of stealing some touchdowns inside the red zone on the ground. But Wilson took over in a game that honestly you can't have major takeaways from. That the weather was a disaster, the field was a disaster. But shout out to the Bears covering plus 6.5. Again, Betfred, go sign up. I made some good money this week. Tyrion Davis-Price also inactive. So that was a surprise inactive for us. Jordan Mason was active. Jordan Mason, Kyle Juszczyk would be the other guys that could be potential guys that siphon some touches from him. Juszczyk and Mason didn't have a single carry. I was surprised about Juszczyk. He usually gets involved in the passing game too.
Especially in such a gritty game like with the rain. I'm very surprised that he didn't get any touches or as many as he could.
He's also a fullback that usually gets involved in the passing game, but when you have the rushing quarterback, they're not targeting the running backs as much. So going up against Seattle in week 2, who I think is a good run defense, but game script wise, this could be a good one for San Francisco. I mean, last week we thought, they wouldn't lose to the Bears by 2 scores, but that happened. Mm-hmm. So Wilson's still a good ad though. I think he's right around 13% rostered at the moment, 14%. I wrote about him on our must add for week 1 on the blog. So we're in a good spot if you did read that, but if not, honestly, a guy I'm not spending crazy fab on. Like I'm not going.
You're not doing because I know you talked about last year when Elijah Mitchell, you would spend half of it, and you're maybe a fourth of it.
Yeah, I'm less. I'm probably like 15%. Like I just don't see. I could see this team bringing someone else in, or even Tyrion Davis-Price stepping up because Wilson's like 26. His efficiency was not great last year, but it's still a player in an offense that puts a lot of effort into running the football.
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean the situation's perfect to pick up Jeff Wilson. That's pretty much all I got on that. And it's a run-heavy offense, so there's really no reason why you shouldn't be gunning for this guy as one of your number 1 targets.
Yeah, you should definitely be putting an ad in on him.
Yeah.
Let's run through a couple others. I have a few. Tight end wise, Hayden Hurst and Gerald Everett. Seemed like Gerald Everett scored this past week. Another guy who could benefit from the absence of Keenan Allen for sure. I think he's got the potential to be a top 12 guy throughout the season, much like Jared Cook was a reliable guy last year. Hayden Hurst, and I'm sure you'll touch on the other wide receiver in Cincinnati, but his snap count was really good, very, very good. I'm pretty sure he ran more routes than. I don't want to step out of bounds here. I think he ran almost as many routes as Tyler Boyd did.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Ran more routes than Mike Thomas. That's what I was thinking. Almost as much as Boyd. Yeah. He was out there a ton. And then Jalen Warren being the obvious of Najee Harris could have a high ankle sprain or worse. We don't know quite yet. I haven't heard. But again, Mike Tomlin always gives like the guy, he always gives the workhorse, always has a workhorse, regardless of who it is. He's like, here's the guy, he's going to get pretty much all the touches. Yeah. And Jalen Warren seems like he's going to be it. But the Steelers' offense is absolute dog shit. Yeah, like, it was laugh out loud terrible this past week. They had no business winning that game because of their offense. Yeah. So Warren being able to run behind that offensive line is a concern for me, but unobvious add. But I think other people might outbid you for him. I think this team could add someone through free agency too. Yeah. Yeah, no, I like personally for the Bengals outlook, really, Hayden Hurst, very surprised at how much he was involved in the passing game, for sure, with how many different receivers there are. With how many different receivers. Now, I'm not totally sure how many of those came after T. Higgins got hurt, but regardless, he was on the field a lot, which is a good sign. One thing to note too, like Joe Mixon was a huge beneficiary of T. Higgins going down in terms of catches. I think he finished with 7 catches, so that's crazy. That's crazy. Tyler Boyd, obviously a great pickup as well. And then this Steelers offense. Oh God!
You can't put a lot of stock into really anyone. Like Deontay Johnson made some nice plays yesterday, but one guy like Chase Claypool, I feel like saw the ball a decent amount. More than George Pickens was something that we didn't expect. Yeah, so. Pickens
was out there. They ran those three guys pretty much they're running pretty much every route, but Pickens didn't make many plays. Claypool was the one that stuck out. Like you said, like Higgins is going to go through the concussion protocol. I'd kind of be surprised if he's not back, but who knows? It's the NFL, right? Like they'll turn a blind eye to these types of things.
I think there's a good chance he misses this week, but
maybe
next week.
Boyd would be valuable play. Who do they have? They're the Cowboys.
Yeah, they're the Cowboys this week.
So it'll be a good
in the afternoon.
All right, that's pretty much everybody we've got covered for you. If you guys have any other ones you're considering or who you're considering dropping, let us know in the comments. We're happy to help you out there. Like the video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel. We'll have plenty more content to get you ready for week 2 and as well all season long. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.